In the ancient world, when you wanted to preserve something important, a place of special meaning, you built a building on it. There was no understanding like we had in the 20th century, the kind of colonial Williamsburg restoration thought, that somehow you would clear everything away and preserve it exactly as it existed. And if something had been changed, you would remove the change and restore its original appearance so that you could be there exactly as it was and the way the story was told. Well, after the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans in 70 AD, they rebuilt the city after they threw out the Jewish population. And the site of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, which the Gospels describe so clearly as being outside the city walls, suddenly the Romans expanded the city. And what was outside the city walls now was inside the city walls. The place of Golgotha, the place of the skull and the tombs, was prime real estate in this new city, so the emperor put a pagan temple built over the top of the place where we recall that Jesus was crucified, buried, and rose from the dead. Christians, the minute that temple was built, began to inscribe graffiti on it. Christian graffiti. Symbols and signs, just like the ones you see in the rose window at 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. Alpha and Omega. Jesus' initials, I, Eta, Sigma. Chi Rho, Christ the King. So by the time we had a Christian emperor in the year 300 and his mother came to Jerusalem saying, "Does anybody know where the site of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection are?" The Christian community said, "We know exactly where it is. Because we have been going to that site. Our parents went to that site. Our grandparents, our great-grandparents. For generations we have come and preserved the memory. And underneath this temple, this pagan temple, is the place." And so they began a great excavation. And they uncovered the Mount of Golgotha. They found crosses, the vertical pieces there. They found the tombs. And the tomb that clearly was the one described in the gospel that Jesus would have been placed in. But instead of preserving it like colonial Williamsburg, they did what they believed would preserve it. And they built a magnificent church completely covering the entire site. That building and the buildings which succeeded it stand to this day. So if you go to the site of Jesus' crucifixion, you are actually inside a building. You climb stone stairs and arrive at an absolutely beautiful chapel. Coming out from the floor is the top of the rock of Golgotha, with an altar sitting over it and a beautiful icon of the crucifixion. And you can actually get on your knees and kneel under that altar and reach and touch the stone where the cross was inserted in the ground where Jesus was crucified. You can follow a staircase down and head to an enormous rotunda covered by a golden dome inside with a light oculus in the very top. For centuries, Christians coming to visit the site of Jesus' tomb wanted to take away a souvenir, and so they would chip away a little piece of the tomb. Less favorable folks wanting to destroy any memory of Jesus' resurrection would hack at it away, trying to destroy it. So to preserve it, the tomb itself was enclosed in what looks like a little house inside this dome, in which you can enter and kneel and pray at the slab where Jesus' body lay before he rose from the dead. Our pilgrims from this parish when we were there in December of 2018, were actually sitting in that domed rotunda early in the morning before the sun rose, there at Eucharist. And we heard the deacon proclaim early in the morning, before the sun rose, on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb. And as the deacon uttered those words, the sun was rising and light began to shine down onto the tomb. These candles that we burn today, that you hold in your hand, are no ordinary candles. Your Christian brothers and sisters in the old city of Jerusalem made these candles for you out of beeswax. And before they shipped them to us, they took them to the place of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and asked God's blessing on them, that they might be a blessing for us. These candles stacked here, 2,500 of them. The prayer candles we will use in the Founders Chapel this year also were made by our brothers and sisters in the old city of Jerusalem and carried to the site of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, that as we light them, we might remember to whom it is that we belong. Simeon and Anna came to such a holy place in their day, the temple, an edifice that was the size of 4 NFL stadiums. Simeon, who had been told by the Holy Spirit that he would not see death till he saw the Messiah, shows up that day, and when Mary and Joseph show up with their 40-day-old baby, he sees them. He knows who they are. And he runs to them, and he holds this child, and he says, "Now I can die, for my eyes have seen the salvation of the world, a light to enlighten the Gentiles, and the glory of your people Israel." Anna, too, whose words were not preserved, spoke of the glories of this child. But Simeon also spoke of pain and suffering, that this child, who is the light of the world, will offer something the world has never seen. Michael Curry this week, visiting with the priests of the diocese before the consecration, was reflecting on the moment when he became internationally famous, preaching the sermon for Harry and Meghan. He said the interesting thing about his life after that sermon is how many people come up to him and say something remarkable. They always come up and say, "I didn't know that Christianity was a religion of love. I always thought Christianity was a religion of judgment. I didn't know Christianity was a religion of love. I thought it was a religion of judgment, of condemnation, because what I hear Christians say is the things that you can't do, you shouldn't do, you have done, how you don't fit in, how you don't belong, how you don't match the standard, how you don't fit the bill." But Simeon knew this Jesus was coming to usher in the reality of God's love. Look at your candle. Look what it looks like now. This candle that I'm carrying as a tradition in the Orthodox Church, it had quite a flame, didn't it? It's a bundle of 33 candles representing the 33 years of Jesus' life, offered in love. It consumes the candle. Offering that love and letting that light come forth consumes the very candle's existence. The more light that's offered, the more light that pours out, the more the candle is burned down. This candle looks beautiful, but this candle has never been burned. This candle is the candle of God's light and God's love and God's fire. And Jesus stretched his arms of love on the cross that every might understand and experience that love. And we come to this temple, to this place, where we will meet him face to face, where we will feed on his presence, where we will be filled with his Spirit for one purpose and one purpose only, that we might go out in the world and say to the Spirit, "Consume me with your fire, that I might shine with your love, with your blessing, with your grace, with your holiness. Use every part of me, Lord. May I burn brightly for you, that the world may know of your love, your light, your blessing,